I've never seen anything like this. It was absolutely horrifying. We got a shock because when we saw the count, it was 19 or 20, young, and many of them were in their school uniforms. And I could see from my house, people were being rescued on helicopter. They were, absolutely, stressed because, they could have been the next, So they were, but they were spared, I think, 99% of them. I think some of the showrooms were, sort of car showrooms, etc., might have been, vandalized. It was actually indiscriminate because we saw the injuries were on the head, chest, huge amount of cash. I mean, the videos of these kids going up into the houses of these politicians, taking out the cash and throwing it from the rooftop to the public. And these were not just Nepali rupees, these were dollars, euros, pounds in cartons. See, we really don't know what's going to happen, how things will pan out in next 7 days. Tomorrow, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Forget next 7 days.
For the past few days, Nepal has been gripped by unprecedented chaos and unrest. A massive youth led uprising driven by Gen Z protesters has shaken the foundations of the nation and captured global attention. The government is on the brink, streets are filled with rage, and uncertainty hangs in the air. As a neighboring country, India has closely watched the unfolding crisis, even taking diplomatic note of the growing tension. Social media is flooded with shocking visuals, but what's really happening on the ground? The Indian Express reached out to the members of the Indian community residing in Nepal. One Indian, now a long-time resident of the country, has come forward with a raw, emotional account of what it feels like to live through the mayhem. The fear, the panic, and the helplessness. Watch this exclusive ground report, a chilling story from inside Ground Zero. Today we have joined Mr. Joydev Chakravarti. Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining with us.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, my first question is that what is the current situation right now in Nepal?
Well, the curfew is on. So we have the army has taken over. And from yesterday, we have been having curfew, which is continued even today. So we have daytime curfew, and which was relaxed in the morning, early morning, in early hours, say around between 5 to 9, and from 9 o'clock onwards, there's been a curfew across the valley, Kathmandu Valley, and in other parts of the country as well. And it will be relaxed again in the evening for about between 5 to 7, and from 7 onwards again till 5 in the morning tomorrow, the curfew will be reimposed. So everything is quiet right now, but we are hearing that some discussions and is taking place at the army headquarters.
So, as you have said that it's peaceful now, there is nothing, but the instant situation that when you witnessed, like all of a sudden it came out, what was the experience, like how it happened, how this entire thing, it's like a massacre all of a sudden.
Absolutely, in fact, it was not. It was. I mean, we knew about this that there's going to be a gathering and a demonstration by the youngsters, and it's been. It was all over the social media, although it was banned, but um, many of the residents and obviously the youngsters, they bypassed it using a different DNS configuration and VPN services. So it was all over. Plus, apart from that, there was TikTok, which was available. TikTok was never banned, so that's a massive thing. So we all knew that this is going to happen. The news was also there that the newspapers, digital portals had also carried it. But and people started gathering in the morning on Monday, early hours, say around 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. People started gathering, and we all thought that it's going to be a normal, demonstration like it's always been. Um, Obviously, the turnout surprised everybody. The turnout was massive. The turnout was not expected. I mean, we thought that these are youngsters, and uh, how many of them would actually turn up. But we had got some inkling because I'm in touch with these youngsters, some of them, or many of them actually, and they all said that they are going to go. I said, "You're going to go?" Yeah, we are going to go. So I mean, I got an inkling that there are a lot of normal people who are going to go, and when we saw and it was sort of broadcast live by the youngsters, on TikTok. Mm.
Okay.
So we would sort of see the huge crowd. There were drone footages, all that was happening. And it was, normally it was peaceful, but we saw that sometime during the day, as the day progressed, the security forces um, started tear gas shelling, and then along with that, um, water cannons were used. So I mean, it was okay. I mean, I thought that okay, they're going to disperse. Normally that's what happens. But then, sometime late in the afternoon, mid afternoon, things I think got out of hand, and one person was shot dead. And I got a call immediately from one person saying that, "Sir, this has happened." Uh, and then after that, I believe it was chaos. I mean, we didn't see some of this, we saw some of it, but it was all chaotic at that point of time, late afternoon. And when the news finally, percolated across the nation, we saw that it was the count was around 18 or 19, and then it went up. People were being rushed to the hospitals. Um, we saw that the police were actually chasing some of them because the doctors came online, and they said that what nonsense is going on. They've entered the emergency rooms. So we saw all this, and it was alleged that even some firing took place within hospital premises. So we are not very sure about that. I mean, all this is very. These are all hearsay from whatever we could gather from the youngsters, who were broadcasting live, including doctors from the emergency response teams in nearby hospitals. And there were many hospitals around that area, many hospitals. And by the evening, we got a shock because when we saw the count, it was 19 or 20, young, and many of them were in their school uniforms who were shot dead. So it was pathetic, actually, and uh, and by the evening, uh, it was. I mean, all of us were angry. I mean, how could you? And we could see. I mean, the spent cartridges were being showcased online. I mean, in today's context, you will understand how things happen. You can't hide anything. I mean, spent cartridges were being shown online, saying that, see, these were live cartridges. which were being used. Although the government spokesperson said they used rubber bullets, but the hospital sources um, said these are live, these are bullet, this thing, injuries. And so it was chaotic, yes. And by late afternoon, things went out of hand. Around that time only, they started opening up the social media platforms, you know, in the afternoon when all this happened, So, and the hospitals, I mean, we have a trauma center, which is uh, which was which is one of the main hospitals gifted by the government of India, here. So that took many of the uh, injured. This thing. There were over 200 to 300 um, guys who were admitted with injuries. Apart from the bullet injuries, there were a lot of other injuries, and indiscriminate firing was, it was, um, it was actually indiscriminate because we saw the injuries were on the head, chest, so it was fatal. So 20 in one afternoon, in just 2 or 3 hours, is a huge count. And uh, so by the evening, I mean, uh, we knew that this is not going to end well because parents were rushing to the hospitals to try to find their kids. You know, it was a harrowing. I mean, we could empathize with the people, with the parents, and uh, so, and then in the evening at night, it was alleged that the security forces were going house to house, trying to find out, who were there. We saw footages, and these were all alleged that, that the security forces were rounding up kids or persons who were there in that demonstration. So it was I mean, I don't think the government uh, sort of managed this well at all. I mean, they could have and actually done it totally differently. I mean, they were not. I mean, this was never expected. In fact, these kids, they never expected suddenly you'd get shot for this. They were going for for the social media and for this corruption issue. Just to voice their concern. But it didn't turn out that way.
So, you mentioned few, I mean, in an elaborate way, but you are in the beginning, you just said that one of them has reached out to you and you got a call. Can you just be, I mean, be specific about it? Like you got a call all of a sudden, like it's very,
Yeah,
I
yeah, of
mean,
course. I mean, see, I mean, we were following, some of us were seeing the stuff sporadically as to what's going on at at the place where this demonstration was happening. And then suddenly we got a call that, and then I called up that this shot had, people were being shot. And then, of course, I told them to disperse immediately. So there was panic, of course, there's total panic. And then I called up a few others whom I knew had told me earlier that they were planning to go. And they also confirmed, that, that this horrifying incident had happened. And so I advised them to leave immediately the site. Um, but then, I mean, it was very difficult. You understand, there was chaos, I mean, there was panic, absolute panic. And And later on, and by the evening, we could see that they were carrying injured people, bleeding, profusely to the hospitals. It was, nightmarish actually.
And I must say that I mean it happened in just 2 3 days. I think there
No,
was.
no, it's not. See, it happened in that one afternoon. On Monday afternoon, this happened. And then when all this happened in the evening, I think it was announced that late in the evening, it was announced that there's going to be a curfew on Tuesday. But um, I could see that from my house that people were actually, I mean, small groups were going towards, and the curfew was actually sort of they had specified areas, okay, not the entire valley. They had specified areas, okay, okay. So my house is um, very near to the president's house, and so that was under curfew. But in the morning, by 10 o'clock, I could see that there were groups of, you know, 50, 100 people, shouting slogans, very angry, going towards the venue, going towards, the center of the town, where, this happened. So I did not realize what was going to happen because I mean, I thought that Monday it was over. I mean, they shot, and there was going to be some, obviously investigation or whatever. And the social media uh, broadcast the speeches of the prime minister, who said that now I don't know whether it was he said it, in the evening or that day, or it was an earlier recording. I'm not too sure. But what he said was that we are not going to open up the social media platforms for the sake of few, you know, for the sake of few thousand people. That's what he said, and in any case, I mean, we did not, I mean, we were all sort of people were mourning and they were very angry with this incident which happened on Monday night. So this was Tuesday morning, and we could see that people were going, and slowly the crowd who were actually going, they became, these were small groups earlier, and then it became larger and larger, and I could see that they were, passing my not, I mean, I'm little about 100 or so meters away from the main road. But I could see from my rooftop that they were, sort of proceeding with flags and all that, banners and flags, and not really banners, but flags. Yeah, there were flags, national flags. So, and then when I switched on what was happening, then I realized that no one was, maintaining the thing of curfew. Mm. They had, um, and this huge crowd, exactly like on Monday, had gathered. So I was surprised because it was curfew time. And then I think they broke the barricade. They were very angry with the police who had fired and the army who had fired. Not really the army, the armed police actually who had fired. And so uh, I think they broke the barricade, and then they broke through the parliament gate and set fire to the parliament house. So that. triggered everything. That was the trigger point. For Tuesday's arson. So first it was the anger, which I think drove everybody for this. And then what happened was uh, mid late in the morning after this, early afternoon, the police withdrew. The armed police withdrew. The army withdrew. They were nowhere to be seen. So you can imagine, I mean, these sort of things have happened in other countries as well. If the authorities,
Right.
withdraw, so it becomes free for all. And then it was mayhem. It was mayhem because they targeted um, government buildings. Then they targeted the houses of the politicians. The politicians were dragged out of their houses. They were lynched. They were chased through the streets. They were beaten up. Not really beaten up, They were. I mean, if you've seen the anger, uh, I think I should use the word. They were just spanked, not really beaten up. They were spared actually. Quite frankly, they were spared because. Um, and then when they came out, when they dragged them out of the house, they went in, and and we could see all this, happening live, and then they set fire, and then they looted and set fire, and they found, I mean, I mean, how many, and then it spread across the valley, and I could see on the social media that um, the kids were geotagging. They were geotagging each of the politicians' houses' location. You
Okay.
know, they were geotagging. Okay, so they knew. I mean, people knew where exactly they were located.
Right.
So they went after them, and then came images of huge amount of cash. Kids went. I mean, the videos of these kids going up to the into the houses of these politicians, and taking out the cash and throwing it from the rooftop, to the public. And these were not just Nepali rupees. These were dollars, euros, pounds in cartons, in cartons. So uh, I'm giving you a perspective of what was, what really happened. So this was the one part, and then they went after big businesses. Now, see, it's a small country, and and everyone knows everything, So it's alleged that these big businesses are also sort of funded by the politicians, big businesses, to whitewash the money.
Mhm.
So they went after those businesses. Many of them were ransacked and burnt. And so, yeah, and they went after industrialists' houses, burned them down. So, and it was, I mean, We had, I mean, I could see that there was a set of youngsters who were, who had I mean, the entire list was there on the social media that, you know, this big hotel, which got burned,
Hilton.
Hilton.
Mm.
See, there's a story behind that, I mean, it was alleged that this was funded by one of the politician's son.
Right, right. He has a big
Although
share,
they,
I guess, there.
yeah, so
Uh,
although it was denied
mm,
later on,
mm,
but we don't know, I mean, this was what was alleged, and that's what happened. So it's not like they've gone after, like what some media is talking about, they've gone after American interests or something because it's Hilton. It's not that, it's nothing to do with that. And then, of course, your your associates from India came.
your place is, well, firstly, your place is nearby the president's house, and you have witnessed that entire protest, that how it went up. You have witnessed that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the guys going.
right,
I mean, I didn't,
right.
I mean, and then very near to my place again, see, what happened was, quite frankly, uh, like like in any sort of agitation,
Mm,
rogue elements come in. Okay. Now the the arson was never planned. The first one I think was spontaneous, the burning of the parliament building. Maybe it was, because of this huge anger at the ground level that happened. But that was the trigger. And then they went after some of the government, buildings, etc. Now, post that, they started burning the departmental stores, looting, all that. So all these elements, the the wayward elements, obviously infiltrated, took advantage. We could see that looting happening, and so yesterday, that was Wednesday. Um, people, I mean, communities got together to find out who looted, and they wanted, those looted stuff, fridges, washing machines, television sets, you know, utensils, crockery and all that, they wanted that to be returned to the owners, So we could see that they were going around house to house and they were piling it up on the streets, middle of the street, say that please come and deposit it here, we'll return it to the rightful owner. So, so please understand, I mean, then again, yesterday, these kids came in the morning to clean up the streets, because it was in a mess. Even today, I hear early in the morning, before the curfew was imposed at 9 o'clock, from early morning, they were cleaning up from 5 o'clock. They were cleaning up the streets, or assisting the municipal corporation to clean up the streets, So they volunteered, and it's all on the social media. They please clean up the mess, and bring it back to. It's a very clean city, that way. So now I have never seen, quite frankly. I've been here for 31 years, 32 years almost now. I've gone through agitations, I've gone through civil wars, I've gone through revolutions, earthquakes, anti-India riots. I've never seen anything like this. It was absolutely horrifying, uh, very stressful for all of us. Also, I mean, on Tuesday, if you, since you're from the Express, I mean, uh, the Indian community, see, there's a large Indian business community.
Mm,
There's a
Right.
large Indian business community, Now they were, absolutely, stressed because, they could have been the next, so they were, but they were spared, I think, 99% of them, I think there some of the showrooms were, sort of car showrooms, etc., might have been, vandalized. But it was stressful, obviously, See, I mean, if the police and the army and everyone withdraws and the prime minister resigns, and then you have got the cabinet ministers resigning one after another like nine pence, falling like nine pence, and then the prime minister resigns, and then they open up the platforms, uh, with a flick of a switch, it just happened like that, I mean, on a flick of a switch, we could see all platforms are online, I mean, it was like that, uh, so, uh, so it was, I mean, absolutely stressful for because we could see, I mean, smoke billowing on the horizon, fires all over. See, I mean, normally what happens in these agitations in Nepal, in Kathmandu, they burn tires.
Mm.
Tires are burned. So tires were burned. But on top of that, then the buildings went up aflame, and then on apart from that, there were and I could see from my house, um, people were being rescued on helicopters. They were from the buildings, from burning buildings, from Hilton. They rescued, you know, I think four or five or maybe more, on a carriage which was dangled
Mm.
below the helicopter, which was hovering up, and that passed above my house. I am on the flight path, actually, looks like, and so all this, added to the stress, because, quite frankly, it was, um, I've been through 2006, uh, the Jana Andolan, the revolution. Uh, it was never like this. It was, I mean, far more people came out. I mean, far more people came out, but it was never this chaotic, um, because the the king that point of time abdicated, and gave up the throne, and it all sort of, you know but this time, although the prime minister resigned, but because of this shooting,
Mm.
firing and death. Even that point of time, there were deaths, uh, but nothing like this.
Okay. So is there any danger for the Indian communities there who lives there? As you said, there is a huge business
Yeah, yeah. There's a huge business community. See, I'll tell you, the traders, the industrialists. I mean, so there's a large community.
Mm.
There's always going to be, a stress, because if you don't have a government, see, there's
Mm.
a power vacuum right now.
Mm.
Although the army is on the streets,
Mm.
there's a power vacuum. There's a political vacuum.
Mm.
Now, see, we really don't know what's going to happen. I mean, how things will pan out. In next 7 days. Tomorrow, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Forget next 7 days. We just don't know, because what we are now seeing is that some of the discredited political parties, uh, are now saying, okay, we will take over, and we will handle it for you guys, telling the Gen Z, crowd. And they have made it very clear, we want none of you guys. It's all on the social media, and none of you guys we are going to accept. if you all come back, we are back onto the streets again. So that's there already, you know. So so it's a very tricky situation. It has to be handled very well, which, I mean, after staying here for 31 years, I am skeptical that they'll be able to handle this maturely or properly. Because if they could have done this on Sunday or Monday, and they could have, immediately, diffused the situation. Because it was all, I mean, every one of us knew that the pressure was building, and there was no release. See, you have to understand again how this triggered, because the social media. The social media penetration is almost 100%. 100%. So now if you're unable to communicate with your loved ones, who are abroad, you use the WhatsApp, you use the Facebook, messengers and emo and all that. Everything was closed, there's no way you could communicate with your friends, families. You couldn't, your businesses were affected because, so many micro and mini businesses were dependent on the social media. And on top of that, the Dasera, is very big. It's like Durga Puja of Calcutta, big time, 9 to 10 days, everything is closed. Big buying, season, it's bigger than Diwali, the Dasera here. It's very akin to West Bengal. So all that, and everyone knew. I mean, in today's context, social listening is, you would do it, anyone would do it,
Right.
and I'm surprised they didn't. And so if they didn't do that, I'm little, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that better sense will prevail, and because already the hunger for power amongst the political, you know, dispensation is very high. It's very, very high. And we could see that, there are a lot of forces which are trying to pressurize these youngsters to say, no, no, we'll take over. You guys don't have the experience. You won't know how to handle a country. So we will help you, you know. Okay, so, but, quite frankly, uh, they just don't know these kids. They're very, very smart, very intelligent, very smart. They've got their head on their shoulder, and quite frankly, they were not the guys who actually, sort of did all this, all this arson and looting and all that. There were other elements which
You said that it's a very tricky situation, and everyone is there very tensed, and it's also a bit skeptical that what's gonna happen tomorrow, what's gonna happen in next 7 days.
Yeah,
So
no one is sure. No one is sure because
right,
everything is in a state of flux right now. And, because, see, I mean, issue here has been that these groups has been disparate groups of youngsters. So there's no one leader as such. So no one leader has emerged. So there are various groups, and the various groups are sort of consulting amongst each other across the nation and taking a decision. So that's the issue. There's no one face of a student leader or someone like that. So that's one thing which is a big constraint.
okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you for joining with
Yeah,
us.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I hope it
Thank you.
was of some value.
It was so good. Thank you so much.